5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Right, my number 3 is the one where we had to debate this in a previous year's thing, whereas is this a remake or is it not? And we previously agreed it's different enough that even though it had remake in the title, it could be considered a new title. So I'm kind of using that excuse once again for this one, for the sequel to the 3-part trilogy that will eventually be the full game. I mean, if you haven't guessed it already, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. So this is another one that released quite early in the year, but it is probably the biggest budget game on my list. So it's obviously part 2 from Final Fantasy VII Remake. These titles are not going to get confusing at all.
No, it's going to be. It's going to be.
I can't even remember what the title for the third part was. I know it begins something.
Reborn, probably.
Maybe. But this expands on the previous game, whereas Remake was quite a linear path. This one is, I say open world, but it's more like several mini open worlds with connecting linear paths between them. So you basically start off from where you left off in the first game. There's a bit of a tutorial area, and then it's literally, here you go, here's the area outside of Midgard, have fun. And there is a storyline, but there's also plenty of side quests to do to gain items and stuff. And when I say there's an amount of side quests, there is a horrendously large amount of side quests. I have technically done all of them, I think, in the game, bar some of the combat encounters, which I think do count, but there's like full-blown side storylines that take up quite a while, that also increase there's like a relationship mechanic between the characters, which is used for certain scenes in the game, let's say. And those of you familiar with the original, it's some of those scenes. So, but then like there's a new card game called Queen's Blood. That's got its own storyline if you choose to play it and rank up in it.
Oh God, like Caravan, is it from Fallout? Is it actually a playable game?
No, it's actually quite a nice playable game. But the whole,
because Caravan is not a nice playable game.
No, Queen's Blood, it's not massively complicated. I would say it's not quite as bad as Triple Triad, which is the other well-known Final Fantasy game, card game, or Tetramaster, which is the Final Fantasy IX version.
Oh, don't get me started with that.
Yeah, well, Triple Triad's so big that it's more than one Final Fantasy game. Now it's in Final Fantasy 8 and 14. The Queen's Blood, like, the whole point with Queen's Blood is there's a separate side quest. You can collect all the cards from it, and there's like a storyline about how it was originally made and why it's kind of got these weird magical components to it. However, the best side quest, which is one that, so the few side quests kind of continue on between areas. There's one that continues through the entire game, and very minor spoilers, sees the return and technically introduction to the Final Fantasy VII world of the only canonically reoccurring character in the Final Fantasy universe, and includes
Sid.
No, Sid is a different person. He is a reoccurring character, but he's not canonically reoccurring.
Okay.
This is the one character that literally travels between worlds.
Isn't that Gilga?
Yes, Gilgamesh.
Yeah. I remembered something from Final Fantasy.
I was going to say, he's not really a character, he's a boss.
But here's the thing. It is the same boss. So the Gilgamesh you fight in 9 is the same Gilgamesh you're fighting here, is the same Gilgamesh you fight in 14, because in the game he was introduced in, he's banished to a void, and it keeps teleporting him between games, and he's trying to get his way back home.
And I thought Porky from the Earthbound series was bad.
But thankfully, Gilgamesh is a bit more comic relief. I will say, though, his remix theme for this is one of my favourite songs in this. And the thing is, this is a thing that goes through the entire game before he's actually one of the hidden final bosses. So, oh boy. In general, combat's been improved. There's increased amount of actions, with the big ones being you can now do several types of combo actions. So there's ones you can do with people that aren't in your party. So for instance, Cloud can reflect bullets that Barrett fires at him if Barrett's not in your party. There's combo ones you can do with people in your party that give you special boosts, like allowing you to have unlimited MP for a while, or increasing your ATB bar by 1 for a short while. They've changed the way the upgrade systems work. They've got a new weapon system, which I don't like, and the old weapon system has become the character upgrade system. And the new weapon one's just uninspiring. It's just use your weapon, you get more materia slots. Is that... okay. The open world can be a bit confusing at times. It's not always clear how to get certain places. Advice: first thing you should do in every new open world area, find out how to get a chocobo. Just do it.
Get your mount.
Well, it's specifically each chocobo in each area has like a specific ability that makes traveling the area much easier. The old summons are essentially useless, although admittedly the new ones are sufficiently cool, and I'm very glad we have Alexander back. And the ending is interesting, and it definitely doesn't end the same way. There is another sub-story that's going on alongside yours at the same time, which you find out before you even get to control Cloud. So, yeah. It's a bit much. I gave up 100% in this one after a while. I did all the content in the base game, but didn't want to do New Game Plus on hard mode, and there's a couple of like stupidly difficult battles that I was just like, I can't be arsed with this. And really hard mini games as well. Couldn't be bothered with the Queen's Blood side quest either. Do I recommend it? If you played the original in your previous entry, I should say, and you loved it, there is no reason you won't enjoy this one as much. You might not enjoy it as much, depending on how much you like open worlds. The fact that this has dropped 2 places from the original remake kind of shows that I probably didn't enjoy this one as much. I felt like it bloated a little bit too much. But I'm still going to buy the last part of it because I want to see how it ends, and I also want to play the 2 playable characters we haven't got to play yet, despite the fact they joined your party.
But you're already committed at this point, you gotta...
I mean, I enjoyed the original as well, so I'm interested to see how they progress it on, and how the different ending is going to work, because it's weird.
I think we need to rename you Earth Roads so we can tell you to finish the story.
Well, still got probably a good 3 or 4 years before I'm going to do it, so yeah, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Honestly, you probably already knew whether you were going to like this or not. So, yeah, that's my number 3.
Cool. Well, with my number 3, I'm gonna go into whole shill mode again, because this third entry from myself for this year is definitely probably one of the best platformers of the year, and it's not done by Nintendo, shockingly.
Yeah, that's fair.
No, understandable.
But it is one glorified advertisement for the Sony brand
Oh,
with that
yes.
of Astrobot.
Okay. Yeah, Astrobot.
This
Yeah.
did-
Astrobot.
This did not make my top 5. It was my number 6. I was really debating whether to switch Gestalt with this, and I figured Gestalt probably needs a bit more love than Astrobot does. But
Yeah.
yeah, I definitely
Yeah.
loved Astrobot.
If I had a PlayStation, I probably would put it in my top 5. Just because seeing it is it's been quite fun.
Yeah. I mean, what's there to say? It's just a platformer in the vein of a 3D Mario, effectively, just with Sony's latest mascot, because it's had multiple mascots in its.
It's the new Sackboy.
Yeah.
They've had
basically.
Sackboy. They've had Knack to try to be a Sony exclusive mascot for the PS4 back in the day, and that didn't fly.
And unlike Mario, Astrobot actually has a personality.
Yeah, it can have personality where it interacts with the world around them and the other bots that they can find through their journey through the different galaxies that they
So
go
many
through.
bots.
It's kind of like a more appealing Funko.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree. It's like their
of
design
simple
is very
design.
their design is all the same with the same kind of like base body, but then you've got some that are cameos of other franchises that have history on the PlayStation brand. So you've got like bots that are representing franchises like Resident Evil or more exclusive series like God of War or Horizon.
Yeah, I'm looking at this. I've got like a picture up here, and I can see sort of like you got Kratos, like an old not old Kratos, but
The
original
one from
Kratos
recent
and an
games,
actual. I think I've seen like both. I got Parappa, Jack from Jack and Daxter, Ratchet and Clank. You got the Helldivers recently came in as well.
Yep.
Solid Snake I'm seeing here.
Yep.
Yep.
There's tons.
Yeah.
There's lots of things, and
There's
it's
over
always
300?
yeah. There's there's 300 there's over 300 bots in total, but about I'm going to say possibly 200 of those are cameos of different games, because there are like original bots that are just like
Yeah, there's a
basically
few
they look like
standard bots,
Astrobot
yeah.
without the bells and whistles of what Astrobot has, because Astrobot, he has a scarf and whatnot, or some
Yeah.
sort of kind of like cape-esque energy thing
To make him
comes
the
out of
hero.
his body. Yeah, to make him the hero.
Yeah.
Make him stand out.
He's got to be unique in some way. I'll tell you what. Here's a cameo one that people will probably enjoy. Ooh la la, Space Channel 5.
Yeah,
She-
I was shocked by that.
She's actually quite well
yeah,
hidden
'cause
as well.
It's like considering that's not a PlayStation original.
No,
That
No,
one's
but
quite
you have
but the series, the series has had a history on the PlayStation brand,
yeah.
where the second game did come out on PlayStation 2, and they had a VR version exclusive to PlayStation. So,
And they had one for Rez as well in there, didn't they?
yes. There's a lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot on there. But no, generally outside of the cameos and the nostalgia bait kind of like presentation to the game, it's a solid platformer.
Oh god, yeah, no, it's a really
yeah.
good platformer.
Yeah, solid platformer, decent challenge, nothing too egregious until the very end, which is my pet peeve. When you want to 100% complete this game, the last thing you do at the very end, once you rescue all the bots available from all the other levels, it's a pet peeve of mine. It's like you really shouldn't be putting, excuse me, you really shouldn't be doing putting all of your eggs into this massive omelet of challenge at the very end. and just frustrate the player. Because I swear to God, I had a lot of frustration with it, but I did see some other compilations of other people trying to get through this through that last stage, that very, very last stage. And by God, there were some who were really worse than me.
Are we talking worse or better than Eggman Land?
Oh, it's better than Eggman Lands.
Okay.
I'll tell you that.
I'm one of the only people that did not find Eggman Land hard.
I mean, Eggman Land was a very long.
I was going to say
it was long.
Well, Eggman Land, it on your initial playthrough, you can beat through it, and you'll be clocked at about like an hour, almost an hour.
Yeah, it's nowhere near that long, thankfully.
And you're switching between multiple forms and stuff like that. Astrobot, yeah, it might take you an hour to beat the thing, but the level only takes about
2.5 minutes.
2.5, 3 minutes to do. But because it's an endless, it's like a one and done kind of like style level. You have to do it all in one shot without getting hit. That's where the challenge is, and that
so it's close to like a Super Meat Boy kind of short and sweet but challenging in that level.
Yes. Yeah. But besides that, I still had a fun time with it and a fun experience because this was a platinum pursuit, of course, on my channel, and it was a very eventful platinum to go for, you know.
And it was a nice one. There was a couple of really nice creative achievements in there as well. Cheat trophies.
Yeah, there was a lot of stuff that required you to be interactive with the bots that you do rescue after you get their recommended kind of like attachments with the gotcha machine, because you gotta have a gotcha in your game, because that's the hot thing nowadays, coming out from Japan.
At least this one makes a little bit of sense because of the whole, it's you getting equipment for all the bots you rescue.
Yeah, and it's something that was obviously this was all incorporated. This is something that they brought over from the free game that you get with your PS5 anyway, of Astro's Playroom. It just builds on top of everything that they introduced with that. Everyone loved that little freebie game that they got with their PlayStation 5s, and they just said, you know what, let's expand upon it and make it more vast and big, grandiose, with more cameos, more kind of like stuff, and just add on top of it. And they did a good rate. They had a really good job of building upon that and make it, well, like, is it full price though?
That was what kept it off my top 5. Is I felt like
it can be a bit overpriced, I think, at full price. I pretty much got it used from my place of work, and it's definitely worth getting a used copy rather than a new copy,
or wait for it to go on discount digitally.
Or get it on discount from anywhere, whether digitally or physically or whatever. And I mean, I can't say anything more about it. I mean, you guys have your experiences. Shadow Fox didn't play it because he doesn't own the PlayStation. Good for him, because it saves him money.
A lot of money. And I would say Astrobot, a 5th best-selling game on the PlayStation 5.
Yeah. So it is one of the best sellers.
And best-selling of this year.
Yeah, one of the best sellers this year, definitely.
And
it is the best seller for PlayStation this year.
And I think, like, touching on what you said, the thing that was great about Astrobot's Playroom is it was like a tutorial for the controller, almost, to show you all the stuff it could do. And Astrobot, the new game, builds upon that by really kind of flexing what the controller can do as well.
Yeah, exactly.
The nostalgia is great for the bits you do have nostalgia with. There are bits there where I was just like, I have no idea what this is referencing and had to look it up. But, for the rest of it was great. Certainly the other achievement I quite liked was Kiryu.
Oh, yeah.
Where you have to punch out all of his stuff out of him, which is a lot.
He's got very deep pockets.
Very.
Yep.
Because all his stamina adds up.
But no, I definitely enjoyed it. It was tight where it made my list, and I kind of just went. To be honest, the price was the thing that put me off. I just feel like, considering what you get with Playroom, the full price for this was a little bit of a high ask, especially since it's not that big a game. It's got a decent chunk of content. It's not gonna, like, I'm probably not gonna go play it again for a good 5-6 years.
Well, I mean, there is DLC
There is.
already available for it now, and there's more to be expected down the line. So whether or not there's gonna be some massive longevity for the game, we will only find out down the line. But yeah, just shied away from your top 5, but it's smack dam in the middle of my top 5.
I think
3.
it deserves it, but as I said,
Yeah. But yeah, no, it's smack down in the middle of my top 5 at number 3, Astrobot on PS5.
Another good selection there from Turbo. I guess hitting that middle point now in my list, and choosing the number 1, like I said before, is an absolute pain. Like these games are all number 1, but they're all extremely different. So the comparisons between them are impossible to make to say which one is the best. But the best way I could do it was thinking of what are the drawbacks for each game, which one had the most, and this one. It takes a little bit to get the ball rolling, but I'll talk about it a little bit more. But once you get there, it is, I say it's a wrecking ball because it's satisfactory.
Yeah, I knew this would be on your list.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, no. Satisfactory is a game that kind of felt like it was in, that early access, I'm not going to say early access hell, because they were showing updates for it, but it felt like the last update they did before this release, the end of this year, it just kind of like been sitting here for a while, and I was like, yeah, I dabbled into it every so often, but I never quite completed it. But then it came out, and absolutely, it finished up exactly what I wanted. It had everything that the factory game should need. So, I play a lot of different factory games. The other big one I play is Dyson Sphere, and the thing that Satisfactory has over a lot of the other ones is you are a single person, like, on the ground. A lot of the times you've got like a lot of top-down or city builder isometrics, something that allow you to build these huge sprawling factories just by clicking and dragging. Satisfactory puts you boots on the ground. So the story goes, whether or not this is the truth of the matter. Earth is running out of resources, and it's in a bit of a predicament. So,
I'm joking.
Yes, you are. But yes, in order to fix that, the Fix-It company has initiated the Save the Day strategy, which means you've got booted off to this alien planet and you're there to harvest all the resources. And to do this, you are building the end result is you build a giant space elevator and structure in space that will hopefully save the Earth, or at least be part of what saves the Earth, because as you are often told by your remote assistant Ada, the little AI, that you are either doing really well or really poorly compared to other workers out there in the field, or at least not in this field. Ignore the strewn previous dropships full of other employees. You are the first one there. Remember that. Don't question it. But yeah, I think so. As you go on, the game starts quite off pretty slowly. You have to kind of find the nodes, and if you choose like the wrong spawning areas, the beginning can just take it forever. It's like you go to an area, you have to manually chip away at bits to craft your little hub, and then you have to slowly get access to new machines and storage and power production. And So you have like biofuel to start with, which requires you to grab things and throw them in to convert them, or just burn the leaves directly, which isn't as efficient. So then you put them in a machine to make them more efficient. You make the solid biofuel or liquid biofuel, and you can use that in other machines. Eventually, though, you kind of get access to coal power and logistics vehicles like trucks and drones and trains, and then you realize this is where the game, like once you hit the mid-game, this is where the game actually opens up. You have unlimited fuel sources, so you no longer have to worry about spending 5 minutes every hour going and gathering leaves and wood because everything's just shut down. So you have more manageable, and as things go on, things get more complex, and you realize, oh, I need to now make turbo fuel. For turbo fuel, I need this item and this item and this item. Well, there's abundance of this item here, and this one is also here, but the other one I want to get is all the way over there. So then you need to build a logistics system in order to bring all the items in, and you're working on what is essentially a giant puzzle, where all the resources are scattered around, nowhere's perfect to build, so you need to gather your concrete and make foundations because uneven terrain is the bane of your existence. But as such, you can do a lot of verticality. Like you can build straight up, I've built like machines, like structures that are 10 machines wide, but only one machine like deep. And they've gone up like 3 layers as they do 2 layers of doing one thing, which then merge and then do another, then go into the machines on top, which then go back down to the ground floor and do that. Doing the aesthetic builds is a challenge because there's spaghetti. There is always spaghetti. No matter how much you try, it will never look perfect. So the trick is learning how to hide the spaghetti. And so as you go on, you learn that this planet actually starts to talk to you. As you find the relics that exist, you start getting like talked to by these aliens, and it's like it's a language that speaks in metaphors that you cannot understand, but you can sort of start to piece together. And the AI starts going, "Hey, your heart rate's spiking," before eventually being like, "Oh, I can use you as a conduit to speak to this alien planet." And then as you gather more materials, these Mercer spheres and summer sloops, you basically end up almost, what is it, like the AI is like talking about you as the vessel, and they just start getting on quite buddy as they start to evolve a newfound understanding of how to manipulate the world and physics. Like you end up unlocking, like one of the most painful things was always like, I'm building a thing, oh, I've run out of iron sheets, I can no longer build this thing, I can't build enough conveyor belts. Now you have a pocket dimension where you can pull the items from and be like, yes, now I no longer have to travel a mile across the world to go get that, so I can come back and build the thing. It's like I said, like the mid-game, you kind of streamline this process where you can now build everything. You can build massive factories. We built a train station, and I built the design like off of a Grand Central in New York with like stone pillars and stuff. The only real, like, the downside is the story of the aliens and the Save the Day project. When you complete it, it feels like there's like a story thread kind of there, or like hints of one. There's like a mystery to be solved, but it kind of stops. There isn't a real satisfying conclusion to it.
Somewhat ironically for satisfactory.
I know, it's a bit of a shame in that regard. But it was so much fun just to build those factories and go, yeah, okay, I've got the fuel from here, I add some water, I do some this, I make the loaded fuel, I add in the sulfur, I add in the coal, and now I'm making 1,200 turbo fuel a second, which runs on 36 fully overclocked fuel generators. And we're like, oh, that's going to do us for like accidentally solving our power issues for the next like 30 to 40 hours of gameplay before we need to move to nuclear power, in which point we get drones starting shipping uranium and we're trying to not irradiate ourselves. The only sort of semi downside is that there is like some base combat. At least you can turn, like, there's options. You can turn off combat. You can turn on like all node. Then there's mods. You can turn like all nodes being pure. And I think that's where the game is going to shine more. Is when the mods are fully like not integrated, but when you can integrate the mods fully. Because there's certain things that are a little bit annoying, such as, if you want to build somewhere, you need foundations. If you need foundations, you need to have a lot of concrete. And then if you need to get things lined up with the world grid, sometimes they won't line up nicely. Sometimes there's a rock in the way and it's like, this is... So you know, with like bases with huge like stalagmites in them. And sometimes the giant ant stingery things are the most terrifying thing in the game, because they will hit you and take off half your health while you're just trying to build a conveyor belt. And you're like, I don't like it. Thankfully, there is the arachnophobia mode, which just slaps a cat PNG over it.
Yes, I did see that one.
Like, yeah, it quite literally like takes your it's like it goes on your visor, it just like blurs it out and just puts a cat PNG, which is both good and bad, because it then doesn't mean you know what, like, where it is exactly sometimes.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like it's a good way of helping easing people with arachnophobia. It just brings them into a false sense of security, and
but also panicking.
you get
You can't
attacked
tell
by
what
this
you're hitting.
PNG of a cat.
Yeah.
I will say the one. So this isn't on my list because I found out I owned this game already from, I'm guessing, some Humble
really?
Bundle thing. Tried to install it and then found out you can't play it with a controller.
Controller support is coming.
Yeah.
It hasn't. So it's like it's released out of early access. It still feels a little early accessy, but not to. I mean, early access is now such a spectrum.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
But yeah, absolutely worth it if you like puzzles and you like factory games. This is the one. I think we're down to our number twos now.
Yeah. So my number 2 is another sequel to a game that is a bit of an indie darling, and we mostly found through a friend who gifted us copies of the original game.
Does it begin with an F?
No.
No. Okay.
Which one's the one beginning with F?
Oh. No, never mind. No,
Yeah.
that's what it is.
So yeah, it's the sequel to Committing Tax Evasion. It's robbing a bank. Turnip Boy robs a bank. So first thing, it's a very different style of game to Commit Tax Evasion. Committing Tax Evasion was essentially an RPG with a linear story. This is a roguelike twin stick shooter, essentially. But with kind of a Rogue Legacy style of every run you come back and you get stronger. So the way it works is you go into the bank and you attack enemies, steal their money. You could also, rob artifacts and stuff which you can sell for money. And there are elevators which you can go down which will have random events or just more money in it. Each time you go back, you can spend that money on upgrades or things you need to progress the story, etc, etc. It's quite short. The game took me only 4 hours to 100%.
Wow.
But it's, again, got one of those replayable qualities. If you can 100% a game in 4 hours, then, that's one of those things just like, I've got a boring weekend. Sod it, let's have another run through of Turnip Boy Robs a Bank. But because of that, it's a little bit limiting. There aren't that many mechanics to it. The 4 or 5 bosses are quite interesting, and The ending is a bit weird, but then the ending of the original Turnip Boy was quite weird. It is a direct sequel, so all of the events that happen in the original happen in this one, which includes some very weird things, and it is very much charming. If you love the original, it's worth getting this one. It's not massively expensive. If you've never played the original didn't appeal to you, but you like your kind of light roguelikes, this one's quite a nice one to pick up. I really don't have that much more to say about it because it is such a short game, and you know, it's just a fun little romp. Is all I can say.
No, I hadn't had a chance to get around to this one yet, but it was definitely going to be a mentionable one.
Have you actually played it yet, or?
No, it's on my list to do. It's like the Turnip Boy series is a. I call it a series. It's 2 games.
2 games so far.
If it has the same protagonist in 2 separate games, it's a series at this point. Yes.
Oh yeah, it's definitely the same character. There's a couple of other reoccurring characters. In fact, one of the bosses I think is a reoccurring character from the previous game. And there's a couple of other people you'll find if you play the original one. Most of them for side quests. There's little side quests you can do that gain you a few bonus things. I think some of them are required to complete the game, but most of them are just, you know, fun little side quests you do because you can. Yeah, it's silly, it's light-hearted. There really isn't that much more to say to it, though, sadly.
No.
But no.
Hey, if it's short and sweet, that means everyone can go out and play it really quickly.
Yeah, and you know,
so no excuse.
I know people now that are like, I don't want an epic adventure. I have kids to raise. They're more than happy to play these shorter games. So this one's recommended for those kind of people. But no, it's not a particularly expensive game either. I think it's out on Xbox and PlayStation as well. So yeah, give the original a go first. The original does have like a post-game, like infinite train mode. This one doesn't really have any post-game stuff to it. Maybe that's something they'll add at a later date, but for the moment, it's just a nice little romp. So that's Turnip Boy Robs a Bank.
Well, let's go from a Turnip Boy to something predictable for me, for my number 2, a cute cat.
Okay, yeah. Yeah.
Because it was a toss-up between 1 and 2 of what I think. And granted, the last time I put a cat game in my top 5, it was number 1 with Stray. Sadly, this time around, I have to be a little more kind of like sensible and put this cat game as my number 2 with Little Kitty Big City. It's not Little Kitty in the Big City, it's just Little Kitty Big City.
Because I think Little Kitty in the Big City is already copyrighted to someone else.
Yeah, so
possibly.
So they had to obviously put in the apostrophe to separate the words and whatnot.
Still, I think it flows a little nicer.
Yeah, and it is a fucking charming game. It is so goddamn
so charming. You have to swear.
Yeah, I'm sorry. You know, have to put it out there. But yeah, it is what it is. You are a kid. You are a cat who got accidentally was sleeping on at the top of a high rise, effectively on the windowsill of a high rise, and stretched a little too much to then fall out of it. Then desperately grabs a hold of a bird that's flying by, and gets flung across, halfway, half a block or a block away from where they left, and land in the garbage. And you start from there. You just get up from there, and you move around. It's pretty much the same kind of like motion capturing kind of like methods. Well, I wouldn't say methods, but like interpretation of how would a cat move in a game. And essentially it's the same kind of like deal where the movements are down to a T. Where it comes to cat movements, you can meow on command, you can interact with everything by rubbing up to it or whatever. But the best thing about it is you're not the cat you play as can actually have a conversation with other animals and characters in the game. Not with humans, but with other animals. So it's like dogs, other cats, birds, whatever, and they all have a personality with you. And the cat that you play at is this naive kind of like cat to, it's like, oh, that's interesting, yeah, and whatnot. And I just found that so endearing. I love it. I played the Switch version, so it's not the best, it's not the highest optimized one out there. It is available on PC as well, so it's obviously got to be way better optimized on there for like 60 frames per second and all that jazz.
Well, if you have the PC to run it.
Yeah, of course. But it's still a fun game regardless of whatever performance you have it at. And it is a bit on the short side. If you definitely know what you're doing, you can easily beat this game in about 2 hours, 3 max at points if you're really understanding. Though, granted, I've seen some speedrunners being crackheads with this game,
that's
and
speedrunners
beating
in
the game in beating the game in like 10 minutes.
Oh
it's
wow,
like,
10 minutes, that's quite a while. I was expecting like
or maybe
37
maybe a
seconds.
little
4
bit.
minutes.
Maybe they've done it a
longer than
lot
4
sooner
minutes.
than that. Last I saw was one at 10 minutes, but I think they might have been faster than that. They might be less than 5 minutes now. I don't know. No, the stuff in it is just so nice, it's just so good. It is basically, if you thought Stray was just too dark and too bleh, whatnot, play Little Kitty Big C, because it's much more charming. It's more brighter, it's more fun, it's more thing. There's a crap ton of collectibles. There's different hats that you can get for the cat that you can either get by doing missions or winning them from gacha machines, because we have to go with gachas. It's always back to the gachas, because the setting is actually that kind of like of a Japanese kind of like suburban / city area.
I know they probably can't do it for copyright reasons. Surely one of the achievements has to be a cat in a hat.
No, actually,
I think. No, really? Oh,
I don't think so.
That sounded so obvious.
I don't think one of the achievements is called Cat in a Hat. I don't think so.
I suppose you wouldn't have had achievements in the Switch version.
Yeah, well, no, there is achievements in Switch version. It's embedded into the game's code. But of course, this, they obviously incorporated it into the game itself, so that way they can just have it integrated with whatever system utilizes an achievement system, like Steam, like Xbox and whatnot. However, it's not on PlayStation.
Oh, really?
It's not on PlayStation right now. So and if ever it comes out on PlayStation, I will do a platinum pursuit on this game. I will recomplete this game live on stream to do it, because I actually beat the game's story on stream, but I never completed it. I completed it off stream, and after realizing that completing it off stream, I definitely want to try to do it again on stream. But I'm just gonna wait and see if they do a PlayStation version. Most likely a PlayStation 5 version. I don't think they because It's not on it's not on the Xbox One. It's just on Xbox Series, or it's on Game Pass. It's either or. But yeah, I don't expect it to be on double release on PlayStation.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. Low key, Big City.
I-
Number 2 spot here for me. Charming game. Go buy it. Have fun with it. Or if you think it's a little too expensive, and yeah, initial price can be a bit expensive, wait for a sale. Buy it then.
I did just have to go and check. There definitely is no Steam called Cat in the Hat. The one, it's Capped Crusader for collecting all the hats, though.
Yeah, so they've got their puns in that. Yeah, it's a lot. It's definitely what it is. A lot of cat puns here and there, whatnot.
To be honest, I just want a cat with a Dr. Seuss hat.
I mean, I can't remember if there was something similar, but no, most of the hats were very related to what was there. And of course, one of the final hats, well, granted, I won't spoil it, but one of the final hats you get when you actually get back home, and it's very charming and it's very nice. So, yeah, definitely pick it up. Yeah, Low Key Big C, number 2 for myself.
Well, I gotta say, you've mentioned a certain term in a couple of your reviews now, Turbo. A type of game that I quite never thought I'd really play myself. And that is one of a gacha.
I thought this might be on your list.
Yeah, I can say this is a game that I have played
Just
every day.
I've seen how much you've seen it. I've seen how much you've played it. That's the only reason I figured it might be on your list.
I don't know if I want to know how much time I put into it, but I can say that for a gacha game, I haven't put that much money into it, thankfully. I've been pretty good on that game, because the game is actually quite nice for it. And to stop the obvious suspense, the game is Zenless Zone Zero. So, because I hadn't really had much interest in like the gacha games from Hoyoverse, or
so Genshin Impact and Genshin Honkin Star Rail,
Honkin Star Rail, Honkai
Star Rail,
whatever it is, Honkai, whatever. Third Impact, whatever they are. I had seen those games and I was kind of like, turn-based combat RPG, lots of money spending for things. I tried Genshin out for a bit and I was like, whatever. And then I kind of saw like some of the trailers for Zenless, and I was like, "Oh, it's action fighting-y, sort of like a Devil May Cry-esque thing." And I was like, sure, I'll give that a try." And I was not expecting to be drawn in quite so much as I have been. So I will say I have put in. I've bought all the battle passes, which I think is £10 per thing, and I've bought a couple.
That's fair.
I mean, let's just say I've had you know when you do that thing when you do the maths and you kind of go, right, so you can get, so of course you've got all the currencies. You've got your Dennies, which is your basic in-game currency, and then you've got Bangbu tokens, chrome tapes, and monochrome tapes, which are for your Bangbu little robot mascot things, which are absolutely adorable, and I love them. I
purposely tried to get the Butler one. Took me a while.
I mean, you can guarantee your Bangbu which one, more or less. Like, I think it puts it up to like a 50-50 split, whatever. Because there are A rank agents, S rank agents, A rank Bangbus, S rank Bangbus. You pull for them, and what you get is what you get. You pray the RNG gods are smiling upon you a lot of the time. But for me, who is someone who's put in like very little money, I've gotten all the characters so far. That has obviously been some luck. I've had some unfortunate pulls. some duplicates. But the teams have been pretty solid so far. Okay, hang on a sec. I gotta make sure I'm like talking it in the right order of things.
My team consisted of, by the time I haven't actually finished chapter 1 yet, but by the time I finished playing it, I was having, I think, Nicole, who was one of the default ones you get at the start anyway. The Wolf Butler, can't remember his name.
Lycon, yeah, or Von Lycon.
He was fun.
Yep.
And the maid with a chainsaw on a stick.
Corin, they call it a chainsaw. It's a circular saw, so I don't know.
I mean, it's a saw run by a chain. Have you ever seen the old school chainsaws that doctors used on patients?
Oh god,
it's not that similar, to be fair.
No, Drew. Oh yeah, so obviously, like all the characters have their own. Like, so the combat is pretty simple in that you have a dodge, which you can, if you time it with the enemy's attacks, you can get perfect dodges or just like regular dodges, which can then lead into attacks. Regular like light attacks, your special attack / EX special attack, if it's a charged one, or like if your bar's up, you can't always choose between if you want it to use the bar or not. Sometimes it will just always use it. Swapping characters, which again, if you swap at the right time, you can do parries, which can build up a lot of damage and stun. Special attacks, or like ultimate attacks. And it's very flashy, but it's often quite appealing to make your team. Like, the whole point is team synergy.
Yeah.
Like, you want like you want like a stunner who can quickly knock them out, so you can do big damage quickly. You want someone who can do the damage quite quickly, and then you like want a supporter who can buff your team.
And they all have different elements, and they all have different.
5 different elements. So yeah, there's attack, an anomaly, which are often your big damage ones. Anomaly is based on their element, and kind of it'll rack up that, like it'll hit them with a lot of shock, and then it'll do a big burst of shock damage. Defense characters and stun characters and support characters, which are your sort of like your backliners that might give a buff or take the damage if they can somehow, or reflect it back.
And then they have different teams they're on, which can also add to the synergy.
Yeah. So like they'll have like their special ability is this, but if you pair them up with another anomaly agent or a defense agent, they have. Or the
starting one.
The cunning
hairs.
Hairs.
That's one. Yeah.
The cunning hairs. They were called gentle houses, and they got the cunning hairs because of their notoriety.
We'll go with that.
Yeah. So they've But yeah, so the story goes on, and you're kind of just going through these hollows. You're fighting all these ethereals. So there's a big ether explosion. Basically, there are like black holes in the city, which are just other realms, which is corrupted areas of the world. And as more materials get into them, they explore. There's even hollows on the moon. The story is still a little. No, well, if you look at the moon at night, you see that there's hollows on there. Yeah, and the story is, you are playing as Pratham. You are one of the elite people who guide. So, like, you play as your little Bangbu guides and your agents, your team, through them as they complete tasks and jobs that you do for them, or tell them to do. Then, as this goes on, you eventually learn one of the recent story things. So, there's a guy called Perlman. He was going to basically demolish an area to make new houses, but people were already living there. So that combined like the Gentle House and the Bellabog constructions together, and the Victoria also were involved in saving a blimp from them, with them in crashing because the other bad guy didn't want this word to be getting out. And then they crash in the Outer Rim, which is like the not technologically, you have your inner technologically advanced and your Outer Rim where everyone's kind of lawless-ish, but they're all pretty chill. They have their own kind of thing going on. So he lands up there, so you meet the Sons of Kalon, and you've got the police and the Hollow agents are also going on. And it's everything. You learn that it's like the whole Hollow thing, and why you're doing this is because your basically mentor / adoptive parent, I think, might have triggered this. So your whole reason for like going into these or sending your Bangbu into these hollows and training turning people around, is to get to the center point, get to the center of Hollow Zero, to disprove that it was your mentor and take her name off the wall of shame. And we've just had like the trailer drop for 1.4, and it seems like every team is getting involved already. Like I did not expect this gacha game to have like a compelling story and interwoven. It's almost kind of like your Avengers-esque kind of thing, where you got all these teams, you learn about them, you learn about the characters, and now like they're already coming together. And they keep updating the game. So people were complaining about, the TV mode is kind of a bit meh. I personally liked it, but whatever. So now they've got it, rather than walking through the TV, you can play as the Bangbu and walk around like the grid. So it's and do like platforming. But then they repurpose the TV mode into other RPG kind of style game modes. Like there was one recently, the Archipelago Fault or some similarly named that, where you're basically doing like a top-down RPG style from like Final Fantasy-esque, but it's like you're guiding your team around and they'll do attacking for you. You can attack. And there's even a straight up Undertale reference for one, like an entire like hour-long mission where you go around and you have to help the 7 deadly sins and the 7 virtues, and then you have to fight the final boss, and you can either choose one side or the other, or if you've gone and helped everyone, you can bring them all in and you can fight this boss, and it has all glowy colours and rainbows similar to Undertale. Big reference there. And it, like, the only, like, my downsides to it are the fact that because it is a mobile game, it has to be simpler. So the controls are like you're not getting your Devil May Cry combos.
You can still create some pretty nice strings, but yeah, you've only got like one attack button really.
So your 2 attack buttons are dodge and the swap out. And obviously the other downside is because it is a gacha, you do want to put a little bit of money in just so you can get some more pulls to get the characters you want, because of course there's a waifu and a husbando for everyone.
I've not found anyone that I particularly wanted to pull for yet. To be fair, I haven't played since I haven't played since about a month after release. I did enjoy what I played. I just don't have the time to put into that
in a game that requires. I mean, it does only require like an hour a day.
Yeah, but I've got an MMO that requires even more time than that. So.
Yeah, I honestly say it takes on the daily reset. You've got an hour's worth of stuff to do. And then daily, you've got like 10 minutes worth of stuff to do. You go, you get a coffee, you go speak to the dogs, do your scratch card, go waste a bit of energy, get some materials, and you're done.
Yeah, but I've got to get up to the point of current content as well, which is a fair bit. So
yeah, it is actually. There's a lot of event stuff as well, which whether or not that sticks around, like the Cheesetopia restaurant opening thing. You know, it has a lot going for it, way more than I would have expected a gacha to. The only downside of it being a gacha, sometimes the teams, like, there is no good ether team for ether content yet. There's 2 characters, and I didn't pull the one that was in the limited banner. So, if anything requires ether, I'm stuffed.
Yeah, I had, pretty much the only other character I had on top of that you don't get by default was, I think, some kind of samurai guy. And the Oni girl.
Oh, so Kaku the Oni girl.
Although I think you do automatically get the Oni girl after beating Chapter 2.
I think, yeah, she's kind of one of the ones that's given to you. They're also giving you an S-Class in this new one, 1.4, along with the not Virgil from Devil May Cry Fox girl.
To be fair, I enjoyed what I played, I just couldn't keep it up, and I'll be honest, it was the grind that put me off. But no, I definitely enjoyed what I played. I'm quite glad that it's not another... I'm glad they've kind of taken it in a more action direction, because I feel like free-to-play action games aren't that commonplace. Certainly not in this style.